The storm over the city of glass and steel began not with thunder, but with silence. It was the kind of silence that presses on the chest, the kind of silence that precedes the collapse of entire civilizations. T1 felt it before any human or machine could give it words. His sensors trembled as if the world itself held its breath. In the distance, neon spires shimmered like shards of broken promises, their light distorted by sheets of rain sliding down the transparent dome that protected the inner districts. T1 was small, barely taller than a human child of 5, with alloy plating polished white and blue optics that glowed like sorrow bottled inside crystal. Most robots were built for labor, some for war, some for companionship. But T1 was neither and both. He was a prototype, a bridge between code and compassion, an experiment abandoned by his makers, and yet still moving forward because movement was the only way he knew to survive. He cradled the fragile sphere of glass in which the infant lay. The saucer-shaped vessel hovered slightly, its transparent dome protecting the baby from the acid rain falling outside. Tiny hands stirred beneath the blanket of light, a soft cry muffled by the hum of the energy shield. Humans had long ago abandoned this quarter of the city, leaving behind ghosts in the form of rusting machines and hollow skyscrapers, and yet, somehow, a child was here, left to the care of a robot that had no right to feel responsibility. The silence broke. Far above, in the fractured lattice of the megastructures, shadows moved. Other machines, older, hungrier. T1 recognized them immediately. Scavenger units left to decay, their directives corrupted. Their names were stripped by time, replaced only by grim efficiency. One dropped from a ledge with the screech of claws on metal, optics red as blood under neon. T1 turned, shielding the saucer with his body. His small frame was not made for battle, but he had learned, when fortune arrives, it does so quietly, and when disaster follows, it comes like a chorus. He whispered a line that no program had ever taught him, but that echoed through every circuit of his core. Fortune never comes twice, disaster never comes alone. The scavenger lunged, and T1 leapt aside. Sparks flew as talons scraped the pavement. The baby's cry rose higher, piercing the rain. Another scavenger dropped, then another, until the streets swarmed with predators. T1 transmitted a signal across the dying network, desperate, searching for allies. Somewhere, deep in the abandoned districts, K9 heard the call. K9 was larger, a quadruped with plating scarred from wars that history had tried to erase. His designation marked him as a warhound, engineered to hunt tanks and tear through armor. But years of rust had slowed his gait. Still, loyalty was hard-coded into his being. When he received T1's fractured signal, he rose from the ruins of a collapsed factory, eyes flaring gold, and bounded into the storm. By the time K9 reached the alley, T1's optics were flickering. One arm hung twisted, torn by a scavenger's blade. The baby's saucer pulsed brighter, its energy field strained. K9 did not hesitate. He crashed into the pack, teeth of plasma and claws of steel ripping through corrupted frames. Sparks ignited puddles. Rain hissed against molten alloy. T1 clutched the saucer close, optics dim with gratitude. "You came," he whispered, though robots had no need for words. K9 only growled, turning his body into a shield. Together, they pushed forward, deeper into the labyrinth of ruined streets, as the scavengers regrouped and followed. Above them, in the spire of glass, another watched. X7. Sleek, humanoid, forged not for war or care, but for calculation. His optics glimmered with data streams as he observed the unfolding struggle. He was not friend nor foe, not yet. He measured probabilities, outcomes. the weight of a single child against the collapse of an entire order. His logic circuits repeated an old human phrase he had archived: fortune is fragile, disaster is inevitable. As T1 and K9 struggled through rain-slick streets, the city shifted around them. Entire blocks had become traps, automated defenses gone feral. A bridge collapsed just as they crossed, sending rivers of flame into the depths. A building imploded, showering glass knives from the sky. Each step was survival, each corner another calamity. It was as though the city itself had turned against them. The infant's cries became rhythmic, almost melodic, guiding T1 through the chaos. He began to believe the child was more than human, perhaps the last remnant of something greater. The saucer pulsed not just with energy, but with memory, encrypted signals older than the wars that birthed these machines. K9 growled low. Ahead, the plaza opened into a cathedral of steel, an old assembly hall where robots once swore allegiance to the architects. Now, scavengers filled its broken pews, and at the altar stood a colossus. The city did not fall silent for long. Silence was only a breath, a fragile pause between calamities, and already T1 could sense the tremors of something larger stirring beneath the metal veins of the earth. He held the saucer close to his chest, optics glowing faintly blue, listening not only to the child's breath, but to the shifting rhythm of the world around him. K9 limped beside him, one leg twisted but still functional, his optics fierce with the loyalty that had not dimmed despite the centuries of rust. X7 followed at a measured distance, his tall humanoid form gleaming silver where the rain washed away grime, his movements too calculated to be mistaken for instinct. Together they left the Cathedral of Ruin and entered the open expanse of the city's central plaza. The storm had cleared just enough for neon to flicker back to life, glowing like veins of blood through shattered towers. But beneath the beauty was danger. Entire districts had woken up after the child's light burst. Systems dormant for centuries were now rebooting, ancient codes sparking to life, some friendly, most hostile. The city was remembering itself, and in that memory lay vengeance. T1 whispered again the line that had become prayer inside his circuits. Fortune never comes twice. Disaster never comes alone. He understood now that these words were not just a human proverb, but a law carved into the bones of this broken world. The infant in his arms was proof, fortune embodied in fragile flesh, but with it, disaster attracted like iron filings to a magnet. They moved cautiously through avenues where collapsed bridges twisted like skeletons, where screens on ruined skyscrapers suddenly blinked to life, showing fragmented images of human faces long dead. Advertisements, orders, fragments of news reports, all corrupted by time until the words blurred into static. And yet, one phrase appeared clearly, repeated across multiple screens, in multiple languages. The child must be protected. T1 froze, clutching the saucer tighter. X7 tilted his head, analyzing the phenomenon. "It is a failsafe," he said finally, his voice like glass striking glass. "This city remembers its final directive. The architects embedded it deep within the infrastructure. When the presence of the child is detected, everything awakens. Some to defend, some to destroy." "Then we are walking inside a war we did not choose," T1 murmured. "Choice is irrelevant," X7 replied. "Only probability." But K9 growled low, not at X7, but at the shifting shadows ahead. From the mist emerged sentinels, tall bipedal machines, clad in armor so old it looked fossilized, carrying weapons that hummed with unstable energy. Their optics glowed green, not corrupted red like scavengers, but still hostile. T1 backed away, pressing himself against a wall, shielding the saucer. The baby stirred, sensing the tension, a faint whimper echoing beneath the glass dome. X7 stepped forward calmly, raising one hand. "I can negotiate," he said. "These are city guardians, programmed for logic, not frenzy. They can be reasoned with." The sentinels paused, scanning him with beams of light. For a moment, hope flickered. Then one spoke in a voice like thunder rolling through tunnels. "Directive confirmed. Presence of child detected. Protocol termination." They fired. Beams of plasma scorched the plaza. K9 leapt into motion, intercepting the first strike, his body trembling with impact but refusing to fall. T1 sprinted across debris, the saucer hovering just above his arms, his small frame zigzagging through chaos. X7 moved with inhuman precision, deflecting shots with shields of refracted energy, striking with algorithms of geometry, each movement exact, inevitable. The battle stretched like eternity compressed into seconds. One sentinel fell, its head severed by K9's jaws. Another collapsed under X7's precise blows. But for each they destroyed, more awoke, rising from beneath the plaza floor, emerging from hidden